3, 2, 1. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're here for the Protective and Social Services Committee meeting on December 7th, 2021. Voting members are Mayor Clayton, Councillor Thiessen, Councillor Bressie, and myself, Kevin O'Toole. We'll call the meeting to order at this time. We have a delegation said they were going to be here and then they had to cancel at last minute, so we'll move right on to reports. And we've got 3.1 Director Services Area Report. Normally we would have Chris Manuel here. He's not able to be here, but we do have Helen Napier, and she'll speak now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair O'Toole. I guess a little bit of an introduction. I'm Helen Napier. I'm the Municipal Administrator over at the Rcmp detachment, filling in for Chris today. So a brief update for the Protective and Social Services area. Community and Social Development nominations for the 6th Annual Passionate Heart event are open. The Passionate Heart is an event to honor excellence in the social service sector. Nominations close January 28th. The virtual event will be held February 14th. For enforcement services, snow and ice covered walkways significantly reduce mobility and create potential dangerous situations for pedestrians. Enforcement services reminds property owners and occupants that snow and ice on sidewalks adjacent to their homes and buildings should be removed within 24 hours of the most recent deposit of snow or ice. This snow and ice cannot be pushed into the public street with the exception of downtown. Failure to remove snow or ice could result in a fine and removal costs. The fire department is running the 1021 fire officer course after several postponements due to the pandemic. The course is taught in-house by instructors from the department and other city departments such as HR, communications, finance, and health and safety. To comply with the next generation 911, the phone system will be upgraded. Delivery of the new equipment will occur the second week of December, and installation will take place in early January 2022. For the Rcmp, there will be an impaired driving initiative throughout the month of December. A Municipal Police Advisory Committee meeting was held on Wednesday, December 1st. The committee has proposed that future MPAC meetings be held on the 3rd Wednesday of every second month. The Grande Prairie Rcmp Community Engagement and Diversity Unit participated in the 2021 Grande Prairie Regional Hospital Foundation Festival of Trees by entering a gingerbread house and Christmas tree. On November 27th, the Grande Prairie Rcmp participated in a food drive at the Real Canadian Superstore and collected non-perishable food items which were donated to the Salvation Army. The officers managed to fill 3 police cruisers with food, toys, and other goods and received $600 in cash donations. The last update for the mobile outreach program, they're no longer involved in facilitating hotel isolation intakes. It has been transitioned over to the North Reach Society. That's the report for the Protective and Social Services, unless there's any questions.
I will see. Anybody from our committee have questions? I see none. Anyone else from council? I see none. So thank you very much for your report and welcome to the Protective and Social Services meeting. All right, we have item 3.2. It's the Q3 report on community social development. And I'm wondering if Angela Sutherland is ready. There you are. Welcome, Angela.
Good morning, everybody. The Q3 report for community social development. Some key highlights include the coordinated care campus, ongoing planning and preparation for site operations. So as many are aware, the move happened in November. We have 24 residents there. The transition was very successful and relatively smooth, and the renovations continue for the office commercial space. Some success or good news stories out of that. North Reach Society reported that residents have been engaged in activities in the communal space. So they're really utilizing the space that's offered there to do cards or puzzles or activities together with the staff. And it's also been reported that it's really great to see residents being able to use the dining space there. So a lot of good things happening. Residents have been seen outside, cleaning up, shoveling snow, and are really requested to help take care of their new home. There are also 2 new residents that are scheduled to move in over the month of December. A fun fact that I wanted to share with you is the Seniors Outreach Program, which we fund through the FCSS funding. Their volunteer income tax program completed 1,243 tax filings within the city, county, Greenview, and area. And just to give you an amount of resources that have put back into the community as a result of this for our seniors, this amounts to a total of over $9 million that are brought back into the region. So I thought that was a really, really fun fact for you to be aware of. As council is aware as well, the Youth Advisory Council, in the last quarter, they were involved with the budget engagement session, Canada Day in the park, and there was a really robust outreach campaign to recruit new members, which resulted in really successful, diverse round of candidates this year. And we're looking forward to working with them in 2022. The city's Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Program, training modules for city staff have been developed. Our first module, as you are aware, is the unconscious bias training. And in Q3, we had trained 31 employees. And our next module being planned is racism and discrimination. So we're really looking forward to that one. The EDI committee has been working really hard on that. A few highlights from our response to critical issues. The hotel isolation is still in progress. As in the update from the director, it has been transitioned over to the North East Society. In Q3, it was utilized 20 times. And currently at this point, there is no one in there at this time, so that's good news. Our community opioid response, our task force in Q3, we talked about how our resource guide. So as some of you may be aware, the city of Grande Prairie, through our department, as a result of a grant, is leading a intermunicipal collaborative, which is a group of municipalities that are working together to collectively data share and adopt best practices in response to Alberta's opioid crisis. So as a part of that, we have presented a resource guide draft to the opioid task force and look forward to further fine-tuning that as a collective and being able to offer that to municipalities in the province as a resource. As a result of our public education and awareness committee as well, there's been a huge uptake on our everyoneisimpacted.com website, which is a result of the opioid task force. On that website, there are a lot of resources, our opioid videos, and really encourage people to take a look at that website as it's an excellent resource to share to help reduce stigma on our on opioid use. Just a couple other things to highlight. Our home support program remains steady. Happy to report in Q3, our workers were able to go back in all the seniors' homes, so that was really well received as a support for our seniors in care. Our transit access and recreation access programs are seeing uptake as a result of the decrease in restrictions, and so very happy to see people having access to recreation. In terms of the community indicator table, I will just leave that for you as to digest, and I am open to any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. You had a lot on the plate today. Is there any questions? Okay, Mr. Bressie.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Sutherland, something that popped out to me was the quarterly homelessness estimate. It went up this quarter, and I believe the last quarter it went up from the previous quarter too, if I'm remembering correctly. I just want to make sure I understand this isn't an estimate of our number of houseless folks living in our community. It's it's a number of how many have accessed programs. Is my understanding correct?
Through the chair. So, Councillor Brett, are you referring to the unique individuals under the quarterly homelessness estimate?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so those are individuals that we have in our by name list. So they're people that have touched one of our services in the city. So yes, you are correct.
So, and I guess really what I'm getting at is, do we have a sense of, are these numbers going up because we're doing a better job reaching folks and making sure that we're aware of them and their files are actively being worked on, or do we have a sense if these numbers are going up because we've actually got more folks without houses in our community?
Through the chair, that's a really good question. I'm looking at the stats here, and there's a slight decrease in unique individuals. And I would say that what we're trying to do is have better data sharing, to have an accurate estimate of what is currently happening in the community. And I would say that these are people here that have touched our services, and we're actively recruiting and connecting people to services. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, I think it's getting there. Just something that I think it's worth committee paying attention to over the next couple quarters too. Anyways, thank you, Ms. Sutherland. I appreciate the report.
Okay, Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Chair O'Toole, and thanks for the report, Ms. Sutherland. Just a quick comment. I love the highlights of it. One of the biggest things I think all of council should pay attention to is the seniors outreach and the work that they do for vulnerable populations as well as seniors, and the amount of economy that they actually add. I think we're just under $10 million there for seniors due to tax returns, GST, and otherwise. So that's a real big win for our community, and thank you to Seniors Outreach for that, and thank you, Angela and team, for tracking that for us. My question is similar to Councillor Bressy's question, if not almost exactly, except I'm looking at the housing client wait list. And so we have unique individuals definitely are going down a little bit, but the need for houses seems to be increasing by at least 50 over the quarter. Is there a reason for that, Ms. Sutherland? Do we need to, is there a need to create more affordability in our community, or how do we get these people into homes?
Through the chair, yes, I think there's always a challenge. The pressure point is the wait list for getting people into housing that meets their needs. So there is always a need for affordable housing and other additional housing, as you know, that that allow people to be successful where they're at.
So I guess my question for you, Ms. Sutherland, is to your awareness, what are the barriers facing these 300 houses or people waiting for houses? Is it affordability? Is it just their basic needs? Or is it seniors housing? What is the barriers here?
Through the chair, I think there's a variety of reasons. Access to housing that meets their needs. There could also be affordability. I think it's also due to lack of inventory. Also due to meeting the needs, as well as, I think, ensuring that we have the proper support.
Okay, no, thank you. That's what I imagined for that, and I appreciate it.
Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair O'Toole. Thanks, Ms. Sutherland. You mentioned that 24 residents are currently living in the community care campus and that some are moving over December. I just didn't hear the number that you said that are moving in over December.
Through the chair, we currently have 24, and there are 2 new residents that are scheduled to move in this month. So we'll have 26.
So can you give me an estimation of where we're going to see the facility even at 50% capacity?
Through the chair, right now we're actively working with our operations team on how we can increase the capacity there. So there's a few factors. With the transition over from Parkside, we needed to give some time for the residents to settle in and adjust to the change. And we are working at this point to see how we can increase the availability with the additional suites on the first floor. And we're taking a cautious approach on this in terms of how we can really mitigate the culture over there with the residents we have. And we're looking and planning in the new year here on how we can increase the capacity on that first floor.
Okay, and so then can you give me the timing of residents moving into the second floor?
Through the chair, we are looking at this point and ensuring that we have the infrastructure needed to get the residents on the second floor. As a part of that as well, we will be procuring a support service contract on the second floor. So it's happening at the same time. So we are still in the process of ensuring that there's proper infrastructure to meet the needs of the clients that we need up there.
And sorry, is there a time frame on that?
We're looking in the new year, so within the first quarter.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Was there any other questions for Ms. Sutherland? I see none. Thank you very much, Angela, and have a good day. We'll move on to item 3.3, the Q3 report for enforcement services. Mr. Ross Greer, are you here? There we are.
Yes, I just adjusted a little bit better. Mayor, councillors, Chair O'Toole, I'll give you the highlights for enforcement services for Q3. Grande Prairie is moving forward with preparations for the Administrative Penalty Information System project that is currently in development as part of the Justice Transformation Initiative through the Solicitor General of Alberta. The necessary technology has been acquired and will be installed within the patrol vehicles to allow integration into this province-wide initiative prior to the implementation date of December 2021 and the go-live date of February 1st, 2022. Preparations were made during Q3 to support 2 enforcement officers attending the Community Peace Officer Introduction Program held from November 1st, 2021 through December 21st, 2021. This is an essential component of the department's commitment to promote staff development and to bring enhanced skills to better serve the community. Also during Q3, the Grande Prairie Enforcement Services Bike Unit wrapped up activities at the end of August and had conducted proactive patrols in the downtown core and throughout the city parks and trail systems, actively engaging citizens on a regular basis in a positive and proactive manner. The Positive Ticket Program, which is a Grande Prairie Enforcement Services initiative to encourage children and youth within the community to build attributes of good citizenship by rewarding their positive acts, ran through June and through August. A total of 29 positive tickets were issued to the youth in the community. The positive tickets could then be redeemed for city swag and prizes and enter the youth into the grand prize draw at the end of September. During the summer and fall, the summer enforcement operations included focus on construction zones targeting aggressive and unsafe driving habits, unsightly and unkempt properties, residential and unlawful parking, animal licensing and animal-related concerns such as animal at large, daily foot patrols at areas of concern for the community, enforcing trespass to property and moving people along to the appropriate community supports, as well as issuing life-saving naloxone for overdoses encountered during these patrols. And finally, September, the primary focus for Grande Prairie Enforcement Services operations was school zones. These operations resulted in 61 violation tickets being issued via conventional enforcement. Another 943 violations were issued via automated traffic enforcement, with an average of 4 violations per hour of operation within school and playground zones. Together, a total of 1,004 were issued for playground and school zones infractions in 2020-21. Those are the highlights, and yeah, I'll answer any questions you may have.
All right. We do have Councillor Thiessen's jumping at the button here, so.
Yeah, I literally jumped out of my seat. Thank you very much, Chair O'Toole. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Gear. First off, really happy to hear about the positive ticketing campaign. really love the outcomes, especially 29 kids promoting things such as bike safety and all that. Just a curiosity, how do those kids get nominated for a ticket, so to speak?
Generally, it's our officers are out on patrol. They will see a child or youth doing something well. It could be something as stopping at an intersection and walking their bike across the road in a proper manner. It could be younger people wearing a helmet. It could be an older youth helping a younger youth with some sort of issue that they might have. It's basically officers out on patrol, seeing kids doing proper things and kind things, and saying, "Hey, that's something pretty positive. Let's nominate them for a ticket."
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so I like that it comes internally and it's not a nomination process. We do a lot of those, but nice to hear that our eyes on the street are open their eyes for positive acts of kindness. So I like that too. Just a question in regards to the tables and stats. One thing that was pretty glaring for me was that the calls for service after Q3 look like they're well on their way to surpassing our 2020 totals, like by a significant margin, as well as automated traffic enforcement. It looks like even if we were just going to average our Q4 here, we're probably looking at about over 7,000 tickets and probably an overage of about 2,500 speeders, whether that's in playgrounds, on the roads, or otherwise. Is this due to, I guess I'll ask the first question for calls for service. What is the main reason for calls for service going up? Is it just a more need for bylaw enforcement, complaints about neighbors? What's the justification of those stats going up?
I would say that the issues we're having around the homeless population is a significant driver of the calls for service. A lot of the calls for service are with the street engaged people, more than we ever have. I think the bylaw, the bylaw matters stay pretty stable. I would say, as the population grows, they will naturally grow, and I don't think they're outpacing the population. It'll go up and down. There's always a fluctuation, but it's pretty stable. I think the biggest change has been over the last few years, the number of calls for service around the street engaged population.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. And then I guess automated traffic enforcement. And the reason why I ask that is it's always a big issue in and around the community. Council is pretty deliberate in making sure that those vehicles are well marked and in places where they're visible. So I guess for me, my eyebrows raised a bit when I saw collisions going down and automated enforcements going up. Are we deploying more vehicles or catching more speeders? I guess what's the issue there? I think you could probably do a pulse on council, and we were all hoping that those numbers would go down.
Well, just so there's no misunderstanding, in previous years, Enforcement Services has been quite involved in collision investigations and responding to collisions, taking some of the primary roles. We no longer do that. Collisions are left with the Rcmp, and that's why collision investigations are down. On the 2021, it's zero, because we leave that primarily with the Rcmp now. We will certainly assist with traffic control and anything that the Rcmp would like us to assist with, but we don't take that primary role. So, the stats in that area can be a little bit misleading. That would basically explain the biggest thing. It's my understanding, again, we'd have to ask the Rcmp because they're the gatekeeper for the stats. But I believe that automated traffic enforcement has made a tremendous impact and brought collision rates down, and I don't see them rising too much. But again, I don't have the raw stats. That is something you'd have to ask the Rcmp to provide.
Okay, no, I appreciate it. I know it was a loaded and large question, so I appreciate your answers. Thanks very much, Mr. Gear.
Mr. Gear, I have Councillor Blackmore here.
Absolutely.
My question for you is, You list summer enforcement operations, including a focus on unsightly and unkept properties. There's nothing in your stats that would indicate whether you were able to address an issue that I know is really difficult to address. The definition of what is unsightly or unkempt very often depends on the owner of the property. So I'm wondering if you can give us a little bit of a lowdown on what took place there and if you felt you were able to have a positive impact on the City of Grande Prairie through that focus.
Yes, thank you. To the chair, thank you for the question. It's a very good question. Yeah, on a yearly basis, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can tell you since my counterpart and I review all of the investigations that we get hundreds of unsightly properties reported. Generally, those properties can be resolved with just an officer going out and talking to either the owner or the occupant. That's certainly the first step. And having that good conversation with them. And most of the time that can resolve the issue. Either they're unaware of the bylaw or the requirements. The odd time we have to take it a step further. And if we do, we certainly give a remedial notice. That would be, the next step. And generally that has some sort of, that usually solves the problem as well, But every year we get approximately 30 properties that are difficult, where we engage the property owner or the occupant, whoever it might be, and they're not willing to remediate the property. And then we have to take steps under the Municipal Government Act and also take enforcement action under the bylaw. And so that eventually we will, one way or another, we will solve the property issue. But yeah, about 30 a year, give or take, would be about the average, I would say. I don't know. Hopefully that answers your question. Please let me know if it hasn't.
It answers part of the question, but it doesn't really tell me if you had to impose any fines or court action over the last 4 quarters. Over the last 4 quarters, through the chair, over the last 4 quarters, we have imposed fines to a couple different property owners where we absolutely received no sort of remediation. The fines had the desired effect, and in one instance, the others are still before the court. So I can't tell you the ultimate resolution because it is before the court. There is a property right now that we've been working with the person over the fall. We've had some remediation, but it's still not where it should be. Unfortunately, it's going to be very difficult in the winter months for this person to complete the remediation. So it'll be visited in the spring. With this person, if they've had plenty of opportunity to work with us, and we've reached out many times. So if they don't, then we will certainly be seeking civil order.
Well, she seems to be happy with that, so thank you very much. Just the one question I have, and that is the bylaw offenses. You mentioned it was the homeless people that were sort of the majority of the causes of those offenses. Is there a plan in the future to come up with some kind of a goal setting that you're aware of?
Through the chair, yes, unfortunately, our homeless population, all of North America is experiencing the same issues. It's not unique to Grande Prairie. So our plan has been to really support our businesses, and our residences. And, when a call comes in, we go out and, we engage whoever the client. Of course, the first step always is send them towards some of the supports that the city offers. And I'm so impressed with Grande Prairie. I really am, with the amount of programs that are out there. We've heard from community social development the housing programs, and help is out there. But at the end of the day, if we have to get involved to move people along, we will. But a lot of these calls, are just that. We'll go out and engage the person. The person will move along, do whatever we need them to do. And a small portion of these really result in the final enforcement action. I mean, our first order of business is to engage them in conversation and say, this is the situation, these are the issues, how can we resolve this? And most of the time that's through conversation that is resolved, but there are a lot more calls. There are a lot more calls for service in this area.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. I have Councillor Lainers here as well, so go ahead, John.
I'm just looking at your new initiative that you got, your administrative penalty information system. I don't know anything about that, so could you just give me a Reader's Digest version of what that smells like and looks like and works?
Sure. Through the chair, just so I make sure that I'm on the right topic, it's the administrative penalty information system. That's what you're referring to, Councillor?
Correct.
Okay. Well, this is a provincial initiative that has been a couple years in the making. Basically, what it means is, in the past, throughout the province, many traffic tickets have been issued, and they've really tied up the court system. I mean, a lot of these things go to trial, only to have people not show up or they plea bargained away. And so the province has gone to the administrative penalty information system, which is now, starting February 1st, for anything that's within scope, meaning certain provincial offenses, and primarily in the Traffic Safety Act, there will no longer be what was known before as a traffic ticket. Now it'll be an administrative penalty, saying, you were speeding, here's your administrative penalty. There will be no more trials. If a person wants to challenge, the administrative penalty, they'll have to do that through the province of Alberta. There's a process that they can go through, and they can have it heard by a tribunal of I believe it's going to be primarily made up of lawyers, but they're going to act on behalf of the province. And so the amount of court time is going to be drastically reduced. There will be some things that still will go to court, remain in court. For example, and they're the more serious charges, a charge of no insurance, that will go to court, just as it always has. But for the majority of the Traffic Safety Act, it'll no longer go to court; it'll go to tribunal.
Okay, thank you. That just sounds very streamlined.
Sorry, Ed, go ahead.
Excuse me. Through the chair, our office, the other sergeant, myself, and a couple of the key officers, we've been listening into some of the podcasts. It was right from development on through. And the government feels that presently, I don't have the exact number, but I remember the approximation. Right now, dealing with provincial tickets, we're dealing with close to 400 people province-wide. Then that would be the clerk of the court, everybody that has to process these tickets, on up to the justice that here's the matter. That will be reduced down to approximately 20 people. So it'll be a tremendous savings for the province.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to have one more shout around the table here to see if there's any questions for you. I see nobody putting their hands up, so thank you very much for your time today, and thanks for the report.
Thank you, Chair.
And with that, we'll move on to the 3.4 third quarter report, the fire department, and we have Fire Chief Rcmp Boysen here. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, to the Chair. And I'll give a brief update on quarter three. So I'm very happy to have been able to fill the two positions that became vacant by some excellent candidates. They have both accepted the full range of responsibilities and in a very short time have established themselves in their position. The fire marshal position became vacant in April of this year, and the deputy fire chief became vacant in January. In July of this year, Deputy Chief Grant and I presented the finalized fire service review to this committee. We are currently developing a plan for completion of the 31 recommendations contained within the report. There'll be involvement from many levels within our department. I anticipate the work will be completed within 24 to 36 months. I also attended a virtual meeting for the Urban Fire Chiefs group in July. One concern that was brought forward by the group was that the integrated fire services ambulances are constantly being drawn into Edmonton and Calgary. This will often leave many of the smaller communities without EMS coverage. We do not experience that same problem here for two reasons. So one, we're not an integrated service. Integrated simply means that the fire department provides the EMS services under contract of Alberta Health Services. So we do not do that. And for the second part, we do not see a big draw into Edmonton and Calgary from here, being that we have now our regional hospital. We do, however, experience longer waits for EMS as their call volume seems to be picking up. Our fire crews have completed their live fire training for the year at the county's Dunes Fire Station training site. This has been very beneficial to us, and this was the first year we borrowed their facility, and we're certainly very excited to being able to partner up with them in building a new live fire training facility. The current facility burns pallets and wood and hay products to simulate a fire. The new facility that'll be built will burn propane, so it'll be much cleaner and safer to use, and easier for the instructors to manage the flame. So certainly excited about partnering up with the county on that one. And in closing, I want to mention that the Grande Prairie Firefighters Charitable Foundation has kicked off their Sparky's Secret Wish program for this year's Christmas season. They are accepting nominations, families who could use a little extra help to make the season special. 50 local families will receive a $500 gift card from the firefighters, along with a frozen ham or turkey from Costco. I'm certainly open to any questions, should there be any.
All right. Any questions for the fire chief? We have one. Councillor Chris Thiessen, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chairman Kevin O'Toole. Thanks for the presentation, Fire Chief Boston. Just a question about the monthly statistics. So the table charts that are there. When it says under 911 calls, fire department total, and then the tables under the lines under that medical co-response, motor vehicle collision fires, other, and alarms. Are those subtotals of the total of the number of fire department calls?
So through the chair, thank you for that question. So actually there is an error in the tables that I need to correct. So the total 911 calls are the calls coming into our center, and they would in fact include the numbers that we dispatch for our fire department. So there is kind of a double, counting our calls double in those stats. So I will get that corrected for the annual report that I'll be submitting when in the new year.
Well, thank you for that, Chief Boston. I figured you guys would be on it, but when I noticed it and I saw that those numbers are all adding up to the fire department total, I was like, wait a minute, that's statistically significant and kind of odd. But I'm glad that you're on top of it, and thank you to all of our firefighters who work so hard to keep our community safe. Yourself, your managers, and a farewell. I'm going to miss Mr. Kostick, so I wish him all the best in his future endeavors. Thanks so much.
Okay, is there any other questions for the fire chief? I see none. You're getting off the hook. You had a great report. Thank you very much. And we'll let you go now. And we'll move on to item, hang on here, 3.5. It's the Q3 report for GPREP. And with that, I'm looking for Jennifer Wood. Hey, it's been a long time since I've seen your face. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair O'Toole. I'm really happy to be here to provide an update today. So we've had a lot of learnings through COVID, and one of them was that we need to be able to set up our emergency coordination center in any location. The emergency coordination center is a place where staff would go to help support a response. So the fire or whoever, enforcement, Rcmp, are out at the site dealing with it, and then we provide support so that they can just focus on what they need to do there. So we are in the process of creating an emergency coordination mobile center, and that we have all the supplies for it, and we're just going to be doing the process of doing a practice setup and seeing if there's any issues or things that are missing. Enrollment, that has been a process of recruiting municipal staff from each of the 5 municipalities. And so with that, the staff out what we call an informed consent, which tells them about what it means to be part of GPREP, also gets the permission of the municipality. Then we bring those people in and provide them some training, and then they're assigned various roles in our response process. Emergency social services is part of emergency response that looks after the people. So think about the evacuees. So that is an area of a lot of work, and we were fortunate to have been approved to post a temporary position. And so that has been posted and has been filled. And that position will be focusing on operational data, so the how-to, and then providing training and exercises and coaching to all of our team members. And those are the highlights. I know you have the report in front of you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So just a question here before I pass it on to Mr. Bressie. Is this emergency training, is that for the elected officials as well, or is that strictly for administration and managers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The training is, we do organize training. The elected officials are required to take some training within the first 2 months of them taking on their position, and we have organized that. That's occurring this month. And also includes the training for administration and various staff that are involved with various roles.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarification. Mr. Bressie, go ahead.
Great, thank you, Chair O'Toole. I've got 2 questions, if the Chair will permit. The first one is about the Mobile Emergency Coordination Center. Is the idea that we've got a mobile one available as a backup if one of the existing centers doesn't work, or will that become the primary coordination center plan?
That will offer us additional flexibility in setting up and in setting up in various locations. We were not able to use the coordination center that we had designated in the city of Grande Prairie because of COVID. It was located in the fire department. And of course, and rightly so, the fire department limited access to the building to help ensure that their staff were safe. So we will be looking at how we can manage that on an ongoing basis. And for sure, this mobile one will help us deal with not having that in place right now, and then also additional flexibility in the future.
Excellent, thank you. And my next question was about the emergency social services. This plan that was approved is this an administrative level plan, or was it approved by the committee of elected officials? We expect to be able to deliver, or how many people we expect to do it, or just what's the work of the elected officials in terms of setting service levels been the last couple of years?
Thank you. Through the chair, We have done some additional work on that and have created some guidelines that are going to just be a starting point, because the one thing we've learned is every situation is so different. But we do have some initial guidelines in place that have gone to the directors of emergency management for their review. And as we fill out that operational guide, we'll be looking at any related items to that to make sure that we have some plan in place for that, recognizing that it needs to be flexible.
Great. Excellent. Thank you.
Great. I don't see anybody else with their hand up. Thank you very much for your report. And with any luck, we'll see you soon. Take care. And with that, we have the next item is 3.6 Q3 report, mobile outreach program. And I'm looking to see Chelsea Frizzell. There you go. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Joe. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'll start off with some highlights of the mobile outreach program for this quarter. Community engagement patrols. So during the summer months, the mobile outreach program in Rcmp conducted patrols in the parks and along the trail system to engage in those in the area with their concerns and addressing those who are less taken and connected into resources they need. Downtown patrols, we do regular measures, which are conducted in downtown core and high-cost areas, to engage with the vulnerable population and connecting them again to appropriate support. COVID-19 response. So this is a partnership with Community Social Development and Northreach Society to provide a safe space for individuals experiencing homelessness and exhibiting COVID-19 symptoms. In September, the province extended the program. Mobile outreach continues to support client intake with transportation and by working with partner agencies. However, in the director's update, it was mentioned that mobile outreach is no longer involved. As of December 1st, it was handed over to Northreach Society to be the main response to COVID-19 in the street population. Vaccine support, mobile outreach continues to provide education and safe outreach for vaccine support to those with the process development. So workflow process with the Peace River Correctional Center's healthcare services was developed to enhance the discharge process for individuals who are experiencing homelessness pre and post incarceration. So this is a coordinated effort between the mobile outreach program as well as the Centerpoint Housing Access Services. Centerpoint will conduct housing assessments and refer clients to housing team first in Grande Prairie. So hopefully they will be set up with services prior to their release. Rcmp response. So we continue our partnership with Enforcement Services and Rcmp, the mobile outreach program, to provide individuals with resources to services. With resources for more quick and response in a timely manner. So through proactive patrols and building positive client relationships, we've seen less congregation of encampments and clients that are more open to accepting help that is offered to them. The city's Geographic Information Systems Department, GIS, is developing an app to gather encampment data. So it uses a survey to collect site risk assessments, reports on findings, and map site locations. The information collected can then be exported from the dashboard to a spreadsheet, which will help us identify any hotspots or trends regarding encampments and to assist us with a more appropriate response. Some program trends include new faces. We do continue to see new faces in Grande Prairie, as well as individuals who are reduced homelessness. So often they are discharged from hospital or they come to Grande Prairie for service access or looking for work. Staff work to connect individuals back to their natural supports and ensuring they're equipped with the resources, referrals, and providing regular check-ins as needed. Overdose response. The staff continues to conduct wellness checks on individuals. If individuals are at risk, staff stay with them and encourage transport to the safe consumption site, which is located at the rear end Walking House, for further monitoring or administered Narcan if required. An increase in patrols are conducted when drug alerts are received. Mobile outreach ensures clients, friends and family of clients are set up with naloxone kits as well and are offered resources and referrals needed for addition. 7 patrols were attended with Rcmp. 36 sites were visited. 33 meals were picked up and 20 visitors were present in Office 2. And we picked up 179 needles off the streets of Grande Prairie in the third quarter. In the report below, you will find a breakdown of where our calls come from and where and warm transfers. So warm transfers basically where we refer them off to. So we do an assessment, we determine what their needs are, and then we refer them to the services that are most appropriate. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay. We were a little hard of hearing you, a little bit of a muffled sound, but I think majority of the people got the report. I was a little taken aside by the number of overdoses that you've attended to, and other supports. So, tell me what happens when you come across an encampment and there's nobody there. Can you tell me the process of cleaning up the encampment?
Absolutely. So we will attend the encampment. We will look around to see if there's anybody present. If there's not anyone present, we do refer off to enforcement services. They will dismantle the encampment, get rid of any sort of debris that's around. If there's any personal items that are left on site, like their ID or anything like that, that will be handed into our CC attachment. If it is an active encampment, we often use our wrap card, which looks like this, and we leave it on site for clients so that they can call us if they do need support. And then enforcement will go back and issue a ticket and remove that incident.
Okay, thank you. Was there any? You got a whole bunch of hands sticking up here, so we'll start off with Councillor Bosch and Councillor Lehners.
Thank you, Councillor O'Toole. Mike, first I have to say for the mobile outreach team, 1,500 calls for, calls to service from July to September tells us exactly how much you're needed. That is outstanding work. I see it daily within the Corps and appreciate everything that you do. It is, there's a reason that you're called so much. My question is, in your graph for Q3 calls, program users, who is that? Is that the individuals, the street engaged individuals calling you themselves? Who are program users?
Yes, through the chair, thank you for that question. So program users, yes, are the individuals who are accessing mobile outreach services. So they might be calling to ask us for assistance that we wanted to detox or helping facilitate appointments with housing or assistance at the pharmacy getting their medication, different things like that, or even transport to shelter in the evening time.
Okay, I couldn't really understand you, but I'm assuming that it is the clients calling predominantly. But I do see that as a highly useful tactic to get to know the people that you're engaged with. So either way, it builds relationships. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Lehners.
This is more of a question for administration. Like, there's from a person that hasn't dealt with this a lot, it does seem overwhelming. It seems like there's about 30 or 40 or 50 different ways that you can access different things, whether you're a homeless person or a low income or Indigenous or addictions, or is there any kind of a flow chart that says, we meet this person and if they have these traits, then they go down this route and they can eventually end up in the Sunrise House, or they can eventually end up at this place, or they get this support's available, or Grand Spirit Foundation. Like, it just seems like it's just like if you're into it and you know this stuff, it's like, it probably makes all sense. But I just find it overwhelming, all the different. I think it's great that we have so many opportunities and mechanisms to help people out, but I have a hard time piecing that together. So my question simply is there some kind of a flow chart for all the support systems that we would have based on the various types of people that come into our system?
Ms. Frizzell?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. Can you hear me okay?
Barely.
I don't know what's going on with my mic. My apologies. I'll speak a little louder. So we don't have a flow chart that's done up. It's more for shelter access. Clients, there are a variety of shelters that can be accessed. But with mobile outreach, we respond to social disorder concerns to help mitigate calls to enforcement services and Rcmp. So when we do come across an individual who is needing support, we do an assessment to determine what their needs are, see if they do have a worker, and try and reconnect them to the services that they have available to them.
Sounds good.
No, yeah, and I wasn't necessarily even specific to you because I think you're just one avenue of many great avenues that we have. But it just seems like, yeah, we have a lot of programs and it's hard to pull it together. So, but maybe we can work on that somehow.
Gladys. Councillor Blackmark, you want us to...
In response to Councillor Lehner's question, I know that the Resource Centre for Suicide Prevention has such a flowchart that they use for answering calls, and also Alberta Health Mental Services has flowcharts available. So if we want to develop one in the city to kind of aid the various departments in working together, those would be two great resources to start with.
Excellent. Thank you for the input. Councillor Berg, you're just ready to go at her?
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. So my question is, in 2019, the provincial government announced 4,000 treatment spaces for Albertans suffering from addictions, and then just a couple days ago announced that they were doubling that to 8,000. Outside of the Northern Addiction Centre, do you know if any of those beds are designated for our region?
Through the chair. That I do not have an answer to. I would like to hope that they are. We are lucky to have a treatment facility located here in Grande Prairie, but unfortunately, as there are for majority of treatment centers, there are wait lists.
Thank you.
Great.
You're welcome.
Was there any other questions? We're going to let you go. Thank you very much for your report today and answering some of those tough questions. But thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much.
And our next report is with the Rcmp.
Chair O'Toole?
Yep.
Sorry, just trying to get your attention. I apologize, I need to step out. I'm late for a previous committed meeting, but I look forward to discussion on 3.8 at council. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And so we'll move on to 3.7, Q3 report, Rcmp. Mr. Sean Curry.
Yes, Chairman O'Toole, I'm getting word from Superintendent Curry that he's there's internet problems at the detachment and he has lost connection. So he was trying to, he can hear us by phone, but I'm not sure if we can hear him to deliver his report.
I'm not sure what's going to go on here now. Just working out some details here, so. Maybe what we'll do is move on to 3.8, the Community Safety Initiatives for 2022. And I'm hoping that Ms. Napier can help us out if that's the case. Seeing as we got Mr. Curry's report here, I don't know if he needs to really, the written report is pretty good, so I'm not worried at this point in time. We got lots of information there.
Chair O'Toole, I'm not hearing back from him, so either we take the report as is or he comes back to next committee meeting to present.
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah, I've just got word. He can't get through.
Fair enough. Mr. Manuel, I see you're on screen.
I am, and I'll join you this morning from the beautiful winter city of Winnipeg. So I'd like to present forward a report on community safety initiatives for 2022. This comes about from a motion that Council made on August 23rd to bring forward to the appropriate standing committee ways to reduce criminal activity and enhance crime prevention in the downtown core. So, building upon last year's 2 community safety initiatives, which included some recent results of a few moments ago, which were a crime prevention initiative in which $50,000 of funds were allocated to 18 separate applicants to incorporate physical security measures to improve their resiliency to crime. Both of those programs have been very well subscribed and certainly appear to be successful. So administration's looking to propose 2 additional initiatives to undertake in 2022. One of which is what we're referring to as a public security unit. So this would see 4 existing positions within enforcement services redeployed and supplemented with 6 additional temporary security officer positions to help provide a 24/7 security and enforcement patrol to areas of the city requiring in primary focus of this initially would be on the downtown core for sure. Regular duties of this unit would involve responding to security enforcement related incidents, emergencies, and alarms, being the lead enforcement agency in dealing with issues pertaining to social disorder, proactive patrol of the facilities and streets, public spaces within their area of responsibility, and providing general assistance and in customer service to the public, business owners, and visitors of the city. It's envisioned that this team will work very closely with the mobile outreach team and other social service providers to help improve both their level of safety and support their staff and clients. It's recommended we operate this on a 12-month basis, at which time we can assess what impact the project has or has not had. I suggest that if this is moved forward for Council's consideration next week, I can certainly appear back before Council at that time with some evaluation criteria that we would utilize to ultimately determine the effectiveness of the initiative. I suspect that's something that Council would want to see. Administration is also proposing a community-initiated crime prevention project, which would involve administration doing a community engagement process where we do a call out for community submissions for things that the public believes would be beneficial to reducing crime in the community or improving our resiliency in regard to that. One of the things that happens today is administration, we both current and potential initiatives, but the transparency of our assessments is often not available to the general public. We're hoping that although several ideas are assessed by us, and there's ideas we haven't considered yet that we expect will come forward, we believe there's really value that exists in allowing people to understand some of the limitations that may hinder our ability to take various actions. So it's not as though we're not interested, but there just may not be a legal avenue for us to achieve what's desired at this particular time, or there may be financial barriers or operational considerations. So what we're proposing is to, in Q1, in early January, work with our communications department and 311 center to solicit community projects, which would then be evaluated by a cross-functional team against a matrix, which would then allow us to publicly return to committee the considerations that were taken into their submission, and it will ultimately help us inform council as to what our recommendations would be as far as implementation of various projects or why others were more challenged. So I guess at this point, we're seeking council support to proceed with both initiatives. From a budgetary consideration, the public security pilot project is expected to cost approximately $950,000. We believe $450,000 of that can be allocated from existing funding that rests within the staffing of the 4 positions we'd be moving from within the law enforcement services budget. The additional $500,000 we believe potential exists for the utilization of the future expenditures reserve, which could potentially operating surplus dollars from the RCMP's 2021 budget. Presently, the RCMP are sitting at about a $900,000 surplus. The city had previously accounted for approximately a $400,000 surplus, which was indicated in the Q3 report. However, with the RCMP's annual reconciliation of the enforcement contract, we became aware that an additional $500,000 looks realistic to be received by the city. So these surpluses were created primarily through vacancies, through the police officer vacancies, through the COVID pandemic last year. So as far as one-time funds go to assess the viability of this project, it's prudent to use the policing funds on police initiatives for this next year and assess whether there's opportunity to continue the program after that if the results are determined desirable.
So your recommendations are in the report. I was just wondering if there's any questions to be asked at this time. Mr. Would you like to go ahead, sir?
Yes. This has been a huge concern of mine for the downtown. And to Director Manuel, are we going to, in part of the strategies, be talking to council or different members of the downtown core? I see it's been done internally. Sorry.
As far as the community initiative crime prevention, Councillor?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. I turned off my camera because it appears as though the internet connections may be a bit choppy. But no, so the intent with the community-initiated crime prevention is to solicit as many proposals as we could possibly get from both businesses and the general public, because we really want to see what people are thinking in the community would improve safety, security, and crime prevention, and then assess via matrix which are the most recommended from our perspective and present such to council.
Yes. And so subsequent to that, I have a few other points. Am I reading this right, that you would be increasing foot patrols in the evenings, or is this, you're still waiting for feedback?
Okay, so right. So through the chair, what the intent with the public security project is is that would be a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week security patrol that would be doing both vehicle and foot patrols through high priority areas of the city. And this is something that me as the director, certainly many of the businesses that operate in some of the environments that are affected particularly by social disorder have been asking me particularly for, is a more visible and consistent presence of resources. And that's what this pilot project strives to achieve.
Okay. And another question then, is there any thought to increasing the lighting in the back lanes of the downtown core, which is critical? I've been approached by a number of business people who are concerned about being broken into on a regular basis. They're showing up with flashlights, and it's not a good situation. And is there any thought to putting in 24-hour surveillance in the downtown core to help mitigate some of these issues? Because the Rcmp are approaching businesses and looking at trying to get video from businesses that they have. So is there any thought to that position?
Through the chair, those are two initiatives that are exactly what we're hoping to receive. And I'll include those just based off of the feedback you provided now for the assessment for the team to determine what it would look like for us to implement those, what the operational and financial considerations will be. So I'd say absolutely, we will assess those. Some components of them we have already assessed, and we'll be able to present back to committee.
Okay, and my last 2 points are, is there any thought to installing a curfew in the downtown core? After certain time?
Through the chair, that's, through the chair, that's not something that has ever previously been contemplated, but that is essentially a third item I can add now to our list of initiated crime prevention ideas.
And my last point, thank you, Director Manuel, and the last point is dealing with direct impact on restaurants who have somebody loitering in their place of business and interrupting their business. So it'd be interesting to see what strategy comes forward at dealing with these problem people in businesses. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Councillor O'Toole. This program is, as a new initiative, similar to the mobile outreach program, I think is 100% necessary. Our businesses are doing a great job with dealing with social disorder in manners that are both kind and at times when they need help, they call mobile outreach or whoever. But I think as our city grows, issues like this, such as social disorder, grows too. So it's items that we do have to deal with. Our businesses, our general public, and our tourism are dependent on how comfortable and safe people feel. Now, there has been a ton of work done in the core, and we are not as negative as maybe it looks to be at times, but certainly there needs to be help. And I am 100% in favor of these, both of these programs, especially number one, because I do have a lot of experience in this sector. So I definitely would ask City Council to really take a good look at this and pass these two motions.
Okay, Councillor Bressie.
Great. Thank you, Director Manuel. I appreciate these recommendations for the public security project. I don't think that anybody in town would disagree with the benefit that bringing more visibility of patrols and more eyes tied into the city in high needed places is needed. But what I really appreciate about this is you don't always need a very expensive RCMP officer who's also in a shortage across Canada to do this. Sometimes you do need a lower cost, easier to get resource that's very well tied into the RCMP if RCMP is needed. And so I appreciate us looking at what's the right level of resource to give to the right type of program. So really appreciate us getting creative in these programs. So that's my comment. My question about the community-initiated crime prevention, I really love that we're talking to the community and we're going to give a formal report back on what is and is not doable yet. But I assume that, I guess I should say, I hope that we get some great ideas to the community that make us go, yeah, we absolutely need to do that. Is there any funding source identified yet that would let us actually action any good ideas we received?
Through the chair, great question, Councillor. So I think depending on the scope and extent of the financial requirement, some of the initiatives probably won't have significant financial impact that couldn't already be absorbed. So maybe it's just a change to operational practice or to bylaw amendment or something like that. Those things could be actioned without that I guess, ahead of any sort of budget cycle. If there was a significant financial ask and it's something that perhaps grant opportunities aren't available for, because that'd be one area we would look to explore, potentially we could have fall budget referrals. But so there is no outstanding pot of capital money available to draw down on for this. However, I think a number of initiatives could probably be actioned within existing operating, and certainly we can explore alternative funding opportunities if something costs more and we don't have the funds for it today.
Excellent, thank you.
Anybody else have questions? Looking for a motion then. Go ahead, Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Councillor O'Toole, Chair O'Toole. Thank you for the report here, Director Manuel. I look forward to discussing this. I didn't have any questions because I think for me, I like this idea. I don't necessarily like the cost or the funding sources, so I need to go away and just digest it. But I think there is no harm in sending this forward for the rest of Council to deliberate, discuss, and debate on. So for that, I would move that committee recommend Council allocate $500,000 from the future expenditure reserve to additionally fund the public security pilot project for a period of 12 months, and direct administration to proceed with a public call-out for community-initiated crime prevention initiatives in Q1 of 2022 and report the evaluated results of the received submissions back to committee before the end of Q2 2022. So again, I think you're going to have a lot of discussion and debate. More questions probably come Monday, but this will get this forward and Council can discuss it appropriately amongst all members, and that would be fair and judicious. So I encourage all members of committee to support this motion as is.
Okay, well, just as housekeeping, is this good to us too? Okay, so we don't have to break it up. Okay. Any discussion? Okay, I will call for the vote. That's carried unanimously. Go ahead, Mr. Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Chair O'Toole. Just a tiny bit of housekeeping. I don't know if we need this, but I would like to give a little bit of direction. So I would move that committee receive the Q3 reports and represented in items 3.2 to 3.6 for information, and request that Superintendent Sean Curry attend the next standing committee to present his Q3 report on the RCMP. Hi, Sean. You're on the line. I hear.
Ellen couldn't get him here, but it took you, Chris. Thank you.
I know. It's like, oh, I got to come back early January. I don't want to do that. It's turkey hangover and all.
Okay. All right. Mr. Curry, do you want to come on the screen?
Good day, everyone. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right, my apologies there, ladies and gentlemen, and we were having a few technical difficulties here at the detachment. First and foremost, I would like to say welcome to the new mayor and to the new councillors. I know there's a few more a few familiar faces there, but this is my first meeting since the election, so I look forward to working with everybody for the next coming years there. So congratulations. A couple of highlights for you from our municipal policing report. In July, I hosted Minister Madhu and MLA Allard. He was doing some views of policing throughout the province, and he came to the detachment, so it was a great opportunity for me to, I guess, highlight some of the good work that our members are doing up here in the detachment, to highlight our specialized units, and in particular our specialized investigative unit, which focuses on domestic violence and sexual violence. And they were quite pleased with the initiative, and I just want to let everybody know that that pilot project completed in September, and now we've incorporated that as a permanent unit into the detachment. The other thing I could do, or I did do while Minister Madhu was here, was I also wanted to highlight the cooperation between the detachment and some of our municipal partners, our municipal enforcement partners, and our mobile outreach program, because I do think that we work well together. I think some of our community engagement patrols and our UTV patrols have worked well, allowing us to meet with some of our more vulnerable persons and to get them directed into the social programs and some of the larger social scheme that we have in place here in Grande Prairie and as we move forward. A couple of updates there from our annual policing program there, our APP initiatives. For Q2, our crime reduction initiative, our crew team completed 50 curfew checks. I believe everybody's receiving our monthly newsletters. We're getting good feedback on that. I really think it's good to provide information to the community. For our community engagement patrols that I referenced earlier, we had 79 downtown patrols and 13 park patrols. From our trends, property crime is down by 24%, and criminal code is down by 21% year over year from 2020 to 2021. And I guess the other thing I'd like to highlight is from our, we had a rash of property crime in September in the downtown core, quite extensive costs, upwards of $35,000. We jumped right on that through targeted resourcing and a focus on that particular investigation. The investigation was able to identify an individual, and that individual did provide a confession to cover most of the damages that were caused in the downtown core. So it was resolved relatively quickly, probably not as quickly as I know some of the business owners would have preferred, but we were able to direct resources, pardon me, and to address that issue right away. So that is all I have for this morning. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties that we've had, and if there are any questions.
I do have one question from Councillor Thiessen. He has some questions for you, actually.
I really love it when Chair O'Toole uses his psychic ability and reads in my mind, because I was just about to put my hand up, but I hadn't identified yet. No, thank you very much for sticking around and battling the technological glitches there, Superintendent Curry. You did touch on the two of the three things I wanted to ask you about, that largely being property crime. That was just in regards of whether or not that was downtown, so you answered that. The other one was on, and we talked about this at the last quarter, sexual assaults seem to be going up this year, and that's very concerning for me and I'm sure other members of council and administration as well. Perhaps it has something to do with the program that you guys are incorporating into your Rcmp, but are there any other strategies that you have to curtail those?
So thank you for the question, Councillor Thiessen. We work integrated with the other agencies within the city. The NCOIC of the unit is in regular contact, and we try to coordinate our efforts. So it's not just from an enforcement perspective, though that is our primary focus, but we do try to liaise and direct people into those programs. As to the increase lately, or I guess from, I'm not quite sure about that data. I can't speak to it right off the top here. So I'm not quite sure how to answer that component of your question.
No, that's okay. It's just I think the more programs and education that we put out to the community in conjunction with the RCMP, I think hopefully we can curtail and totally eliminate those stats and make them zero like some of the others represented in the table charts. Thank you for your work on that currently, and I know we guys still got a long road to go ahead, so really appreciate it. The last question I had was in regards to a couple videos that I saw recently on social media, one involving a mom and her 2 children being escorted outside of the Eastlink Center by 3 RCMP officers, and the other was a gentleman being escorted out of the Prairie Mall after being handcuffed by security and then escorted out by an RCMP officer. I guess as a calls to service, I was just sort of looking throughout the table charts, and I was wondering where COVID calls are represented when our RCMP respond to a complaint of somebody perhaps not being masked or vaccinated and being somewhere where they're mandated not to be allowed.
So I don't have particular data on a COVID call per se. Generally, if we receive a call, it would be for, trespassing or mischief or some other thing. So I don't have particular data on that. I did see the video of the incident at the Eastlink Center. I did not see the other one from the Prairie Mall. So I don't get a lot of information, I guess, up at my level of those types of calls. I think that's probably a good thing, that most of them can be resolved without any sort of continued or extended disagreement, I guess, or conflict. I think in the most part, we've tried to be respectful of people's opinions and their rights. It's just when their rights conflict with public health direction, and I know businesses are trying very hard to be compliant, and we try to resolve it at the lowest possible level, and usually that's just in a conversation.
Awesome. Glad that it's just a conversation. I guess my only concern is like when we're talking about criminal offenses, I know that public health orders, they're important, but they're not necessarily the law. So that's why I asked if it was recorded in here either under mischief or otherwise. And I wonder if sometimes, especially when we're sending 3 officers to escort a mom sitting watching her kids play lacrosse, if 3 officers is the best and highest use of our RCMP members' time and the city's money. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, if I may, Councillor Thiessen, I think we need to be clear, I guess, in some of the messaging that goes out. The Health Act is a provincial law, and that any direction coming out from the provincial medical officer of health, we're all obligated to follow. I think, thankfully, most times we can resolve those issues through communication. That hasn't always been the case across the province, I think, as we all know. So thankfully, so far, with the interactions between both ourselves, and I think enforcement would say the same previously, we've been able to resolve those just through communication with the citizens here. We like to keep it that way.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Curry.
All right, Mr. Curry, thank you very much for attending today. I've got one other individual, Councillor John Laners would like to ask you a question.
Thank you. That was a very good report. So I know it's been probably a long time since you've been on the traffic beat, so I'm just I'll ask you a question here. Just from your experience, I see we have about 4 vehicle accidents a day, and about 1 a week where there's some type of injury. From your experience, what would you think the mix would be as the cause of accidents? Is it going over the speed limit? Is it icy road conditions? maybe impairment or texting? What would be your general breakdown? I'm not asking for, but just your spidey senses on this one. What do you think is the root cause of many of these problems?
You're right. It's been a long time since I've been out writing tickets, and that's probably a good thing. I would say generally, if you noticed a trend, I think you would find that traffic accidents go up in the wintertime and they decrease comparatively in the summer. So certainly, I think road conditions or driving conditions have a great impact on the volume of accidents. But more specific than that, I'd have to delve into the data, and I'm just not quite comfortable in doing that right now because I don't have that in front of me. But I would say, in general, the conditions that individuals are driving in have a great deal of impact on the prevalence of accidents.
You actually keep track of the suspected cause of an accident? Like, do you keep that on a record about that? I'm just curious.
Well, we, in partnership with the Collision Reporting Center, we do have access to data. And most of that data, again, it would be collected through traffic collision reports. So I think they would see if we went to the province, we could get very specific data from them through the traffic collision reports.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask one more time to see if there's anybody that has questions. Looks like nobody's got their hand up. So thank you again. With all the troubles of IT and internet, I thank you for your desire to be on City Council agenda today. So we'll see you in the near future. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have no items. Of course, Chris, prior to Mr. Curry coming on, you started to make a motion. Did you want to continue that motion or withdraw it?
Yeah, I will withdraw the motion and just move to receive all Q3 reports for information.
Thank you. Motion's in order. I'll call for the vote. And 3.8 was a different one. I vote in favor. Do we want to include Director Manuel's report? Because that's a verbal report. Okay. Okay. So then we'll move on. We have that passed unanimously. We have item 4, which is correspondence. We have none. Item 5, other business. We have none. Bylaw and policy review. We have none. But we do have some items on outstanding items lists, and we're looking for a oil report.
So, thank you, Chair O'Toole. Item 1160 can now be removed from the outstandings items list, as it was just presented by Director Manuel. Item 1168, TRC actions, calls to action, is on track for the 18th of January, the report. And item 1167, collision reporting model, is on track for the 15th of March.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Chair O'Toole. I'll move that committee receive the outstanding items list as amended.
Okay, thank you. And I'll call for the vote. I'm in favor, by the way. Mr. Bresci, did you have something?
No, I was just going to make that motion if Councillor Thiessen hadn't beat me to it.
That passed unanimously, and as we speak, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Thank you for attending today's meetings.